Welcome to Dodgers Dawgs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Casey Porter here. Wow, what a game last night. Wow, do we have a lot to talk about tonight. It was about, my time, about 2:30, whenever the game ended. An absolute instant classic. What a great game between two great teams. We talked about coming into last night how both teams, it was 1-1, and Toronto had done what they do best in game one. The Dodgers got them back in game two by doing what they do best, by starting pitching, especially with Yamamoto, getting a couple of big swings and evening the series out. And then last night was just absolutely a complete Donnybrook. And by the way, just to get this off of this topic, we won't spend much time on it, but what happened last night, hey, obviously, I think you need to play out the playoffs in its purest form to get the best winner. But I think that 18 innings last night goes to show why the placed runner was put into place in Major League Baseball for the regular season. You don't want 18-inning games in the regular season because I guarantee you the guys will have adrenaline tonight. But if that's a regular season game and you got to play like the Dodgers did a couple of times this year, like another 30 days in a row, something like that, that would be tough. But hey, Alejandro Kirk, here's one concern. Alejandro Kirk, he played 12 innings. So, hey, he's been great. He hit the home run last night. We told you yesterday, Alejandro Kirk was one that does very well in terms of hitting home runs and slugging with high velo, 95 and above. And so guess what Tyler Glasnow threw him? He threw him a get-me-over curveball. And for Glasnow, I thought he had a great plan. I thought throwing the sinker instead of the four-seam was a great idea because the way that you get these guys out, and we've said this many times, is in the zone and specifically with movement. How many times did we mention with Yamamoto, if you can just move a ball from strike to strike, just from one part of the strike zone to the other and stay in the strike zone and force them to have to swing and hit it, then that's how you beat this team. So that was squarely Glasnow's game plan yesterday, was to throw the sinker, and instead of just trying to max out on velo, which we've seen Toronto be able to do, instead just move the ball a little bit with inside the strike zone, get them to swing, get a lot of early outs, and get some weak contact. So the sinker was good. I mean, he did a good job with the sinker. He threw it in zone about 60%. That was a great game plan. Where the problems came in for Tyler Glasnow is he just simply did not execute his curveball, and he did not execute his slider. We saw the hanging curveball to Alejandro Kirk, and again, just trying to avoid some kind of ambush with a fastball because we know Kirk hits a lot of slug and a lot of home runs against high velo. He does well against high velo as far as the power game, and so a good idea trying to mix him up and stay away from the high velo to Alejandro Kirk. Just can't hang a curveball there. Alejandro Kirk is too good of a player. So it was the execution with the curveball and the slider. The curveball was in zone just 46%. Slider was in zone just 36%. And, man, you got to be able to move the ball and throw more than one pitch in the zone for a strike if you're going to beat Toronto, because they are so relentless and they are such a good offense. So I thought the game plan was good, to move the ball, throw strikes through movement with the sinker. I just didn't think and I thought the execution was good. If you just to kind of back up my point that the execution was good, that the plan was good. As far as the sinker goes, that Toronto, they only had an 83-mile-an-hour exit velo on his sinker, and they typically speaking hit fastballs well. So give Glasnow, give Pryor credit for putting a good game plan together to transitioning to the sinker. But again, it was just a matter of not executing the secondaries as well as to be honest with you, I'm going to give Toronto credit, as well as they force you to have to execute even with more than one pitch. So what a great game. Now imagine being Toronto and imagine being on the road for the next two. You got to face the greatest player ever to walk the face of the planet, who, by the way, just tied the game up with an opposite field home run to left field, who, by the way, almost set an all-time record in the Major League Baseball by having 4 extra base hits in one game, who, by the way, got on base 9 times, who, by the way, proved guys like me, dumbasses like me that want to question the clutch factor of Shohei Ohtani, put all of that crap to bed. So, yes, he's elite. Yes, he's clutch. He answered all those questions. Imagine being Toronto, one of your best, maybe your best offensive player, Alejandro Kirk, had to catch 12 innings last night. Hopefully that 12 innings takes some starch out of him because he has been maybe the biggest offensive factor for him. So imagine having to face Shohei Ohtani, Yoshinobu Yamamoto on the road, then Blake Snell, and then, Shohei Ohtani, and then Blake Snell. And then if you do get that game back, the series back to Toronto, you got to face Yamamoto and Glass now again. You have to do it after getting crushed in an 18-inning game last night. You have to do it, first of all, starting by the next two games being on the road, which Toronto's been a good offensive team on the road in the postseason through 6 games. And you got to beat Ohtani, the best player in the world, who, by the way, is hot right now. He's riding a lot of positive momentum. And then you have to go back and beat and you got to go back and beat Blake Snell, who's going to be very, very pissed off about his first outing. And you know he's going to make some good adjustments. Imagine being Toronto in that situation. I wouldn't want to be them. And here's the thing. You could squarely see in the NLCS, the Dodgers at some point, they broke Milwaukee. You could look in the Milwaukee dugout and you could just see from the mannerisms, from just some of the things that Pat Murphy said. Just if you're trained in the game to pick up aspects of monologue and dialogues from people who are trying not to concede defeat, but kind of know they are defeated. If you're trained in those aspects, you could just tell by Pat Murphy, some of his comments, that unless, the Dodgers just started playing like crap, that series was over. He knew that. And so the Milwaukee Brewers, the Dodgers broke them, squarely put. So here's a big question. Did the 18-inning game last night, did the fact that Dodgers survived so many different situations, came away with that win, will that break the Toronto Blue Jays? We know that they are one of the most, if not the Dodgers, they are I think, the most mentally tough team in all of Major League Baseball. So it will take quite an accomplishment to mentally break this Toronto team, but if there is anything that can do it, it's losing in 8 innings, having maybe your best hitter have to catch 12 innings, having to face the greatest player in the world on the bump the next day, about 16, 17 hours later. And then if you do that, then you have to beat Blake Snell, who you beat last time, who's going to be extremely pissed and ready for revenge. So, I mean, hey, not to say it will break them, but if there was ever anything that could break a team as mentally tough as Toronto, that certainly would be it. Here's a concern for the Dodgers. Will Smith caught all 18 innings. We know that he was coming off the injury. He looks like he's showing no effects. He's hitting over 300 in terms of the maybe lingering effects of the injuries, but he did catch 18 innings last night. So do you go ahead and throw out a Ben Rortvedt tonight, at least for the first 4 or 5 innings, and see if you can build a lead offensively, see if Shohei Ohtani can shut him down, and maybe you can win a game without Will Smith, or you just say, hey, man, this is why we pay you. I don't care if it was 18 innings. I don't care if you were injured. Get your ass back out there and ride the adrenaline and see what happens. So I'll be curious to see how the Dodgers handle Will Smith catching all 18 innings. Very, very, very difficult thing to do. One of the advantages that Austin was very clear about in terms of what probably the biggest advantage Toronto had was their defense. Boy, that throw last. Of course, I have no issues with sending Freddie Freeman home. With 2 outs, it's almost automatic because if you play the odds, I know Addison Barger has a cannon. He did a great job of not rushing himself. He did a great job of getting the ball to home plate in a very timely manner. But, the next guy on deck is going to be about a 75% chance they're going to get out. And I think you have a better than 25% chance that somewhere along the chain, even on a play like that where a good to great throw gets the runner out by a fairly substantial margin, I think the odds are that the defense has a better than 25% chance at messing that play up than the next guy getting a hit, which would be about a 25% chance. So I had no issues with the send of Freddie Freeman to home plate, even though Addison Barger threw him out with a great throw by a pretty good margin. You do never make the third out at third base, though. So the base running mistake by Teo, I know it was close, but you never make the third out at third base. and especially considering the way that the Dodgers hit home runs, especially considering who you had on deck. So I was not a big fan of Teo getting thrown out at third base. One, just because the golden rule, you never make the third out at third base. You're already in scoring position. And whenever you're struggling to score runs on the margins, the number one thing in baseball, and I do agree with this, that advanced analytics will tell you the most valuable thing in baseball is the out. So making the out right there is not worth the chance. It's not worth the chance of giving up the out right there to gain third base, especially when you're already in scoring position. And like we said yesterday, if you're surprised that Max Scherzer came out and had his best fastball of the year last night, and he pitched to adrenaline, and he pitched like it was personal to him, and he pitched like this was his last go-round, and that his hair was on fire, and that he was the typical great Max Scherzer, if you're surprised by any of that, then you should not have been. That is exactly what guys like Max Scherzer does. They pitch above even their capabilities. Hey, we saw Clayton Kershaw do it last night when he came in the 13th inning and got out of the bases loaded jam. And I said yesterday I was not concerned whatsoever. Matter of fact, I was surprised that at bat with the bases loaded was as difficult as it was. I thought he'd come in and flip a couple curveballs, a couple of sliders, showcase his fastball, and it would be curtains for Toronto. And I thought Dave would ride Clayton Kershaw a little bit longer. He chose Emmett Sheehan to ride him longer too. And then, obviously you use just about every bullet you have. But Clayton Kershaw comes through, no surprise. Those guys come through in those type of situations. No surprise whatsoever that Max Scherzer had the great outing that he had and that he was Max Scherzer last night. So just think about all the things the Dodgers had to survive last night. And this is why it would be so demoralizing for Toronto. This is why it could break Toronto. Here's all the things that the Dodgers had to survive last night. The Scherzer great outing. You had to survive every one of Toronto's best bullpen arms. Fluharty, Varland, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Chris Bassett, Hoffman, Braden Fisher, Lauer, and Little. So you had to cruise right through every single one of the A-team bullets, and many of those bullets will not be available tonight. So you had to withstand you had a great Max Scherzer and then all of the best bullpen arms for Toronto ready to go. You had to survive that. Meanwhile, on the other side, the Dodgers had to throw Jack Dreyer, Justin Robleski, Anthony Bonda, Edgardo Henriquez, Will Klein, and then Emmett Sheehan had to go 2 2/3 innings. So while the Dodgers didn't have any of it set up, they didn't have Alex Vesia. They still don't have Alex Vesia, obviously. The Dodgers had to throw 3 or 4 guys that have almost no playoff experience, if zero at all. Will Klein had to go over 4 innings. Emmett Sheehan had to go over 2 innings. And you had to bring in Clayton Kershaw, who historically has not been good in the playoffs. The one time he came into the playoffs this year was not good at all. You had to bring him in with the bases loaded. So while you had to face the A team and every single high leverage bullet that Toronto had in the bullpen, plus a great start from Max Scherzer, you didn't get a great start from Tyler Glasnow. Then you didn't have totally high leverage arms that you threw last night. You had to rely on really weird type situations like Will Klein having to go like a starter, like Emmett Sheehan having to throw extra innings, like Clayton Kershaw coming in with the bases loaded. You had to survive that bullpen game last night, okay? You had to survive 2 big errors by Mookie Betts and Tommy Edman, 2 guys that, in my opinion, well, Edman's already done it. I think Mookie Betts will win a Gold Glove at shortstop at some point. So 2 Gold Glove caliber defenders, in my opinion. One's not an opinion, one is. In Mookie Betts and Tommy Edman, you had to withstand 2 big errors by them. We said yesterday that one of the way Toronto beats you is that they just probe and they probe and they probe till they can come up with the big inning. They did that with the 4 spot last night, so you had to survive a big inning. You had to survive making 2 big outs on the bases. You had to survive Shohei Ohtani getting caught stealing in the 9th inning. which really felt like a big blow. You had to then, in the next half inning, you had to survive a base hit, a double that looked like it was going to give Toronto the lead, and your worst defender, and it was hit. You had to survive the fact that it was hit to your worst defender in Teo Hernandez, and he had to come up with a huge play, and he did. You had to have a perfect relay from Tommy Edman. You had a catcher's glove in the hand of Will Smith. He had to hold on to the ball, which is a lot harder than it seems. Then you had to overcome a challenge on that play. You had to overcome that. You had to overcome two deficits. One was 2 runs, and another one was as late as, the 7th inning. You had to overcome a leadoff walk to Alejandro Kirk in the 10th inning. You had to withstand Clayton Kershaw coming in with the bases loaded in the 12th, which came after a leadoff walk. So you had to overcome the leadoff walk, the bases loaded situation, 2 walks in total in the 12th inning, and an overturned call at third base. You had to overcome that. You had to overcome a somewhat do-or-die flip play from Tommy Edman to end the bases loaded jam in the 12th inning for Toronto. You had to overcome a totally squandered opportunity in the 13th. Tommy Edman leads off with a double. You get him moved over with a Miguel Rojas bunt. Alex Call pops up. You don't score. By the way, Alex Call did pop up there, but he got a base hit. Alex Call needs to be in the lineup. He needs to start tonight. No question about that. So you had to overcome that as well. Think of all the things that you had to overcome last night. Don't ever tell me that the Dodgers aren't gritty. Don't ever tell me that this team doesn't have fight. Don't ever tell me that this team doesn't want to win and they aren't mentally tough and physically tough, because they proved that absolutely last night. Freddie Freeman got the walk-off last night. No surprise whatsoever, just simply because if you looked at his lineout with the bases loaded in the 13th inning, you could tell that he was locked in. Freddie Freeman looked locked in. He got the big hit earlier in the game to tie the game before that was, and then that was to tie it at 4. So he got the big double, kind of lucky on that one. So it didn't look like he was totally locked in there, but sometimes just getting a lucky hit, just seeing the ball hit grass for a hitter, kind of like you tell a shooter in basketball, if you're not making shots, just go make a layup, right? So sometimes getting lucky, just seeing a ball hit grass in the outfield and getting a hit gets you going. So that was a good hit by Freddie Freeman to tie the game up at 4. Then even though he did fly out to center field with the bases loaded, he looked locked in. So there was no surprise that he ended it with a walk-off in the obviously in the 18th inning to end the game last night. What an incredible situation that was. And so what I want to do right now is I want to play you. Let me actually make sure this is working. Yeah, it is right here. So I want to play you some clips from Will Klein. The Dodgers do not win without Will Klein last night. And so he came over from the Dodgers. One thing that for me has been an issue with him is, do you trust your fastball? I asked him that question. We're going to hear his response to that. We're also going to hear the adjustments that the Dodgers made with his breaking balls that you saw last night with the strikeout to the lefty in the big leverage situation. So listen to the adjustments. Remember the video. I can't play the video because I'll get tagged for it. But remember the out that he made to the lefty with the slider underneath the hands, and he's going to tell you exactly the adjustments he made to get there. So here we go. We're going to play comments from Will Klein, and we're going to talk about that.
I used to throw a gyro, and so when I first got here, we went fastball, curveball, cutter, and so my first 2 weeks in OKC were solid, just going at it, getting after them, and then went up after that, and realized I was throwing a lot better to lefties too, because that's a good arsenal to get in on them and stuff. And I kind of used them as a natural barrier to not pull off. And so righties, I had that side open, so I'd pull a little more. So all right, here's a pitch to help with righties, and we just tweaked my curveball. I throw like a 12-6. Yeah. So we just flipped the seams on it. Here's a slider.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That sounds like Braden Fisher. That's exactly what he did. Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah, so 12-6, now it's I just spike a sweeper, and I've been throwing that 89, 90. I mean, even with lefties, I can get that under the bat. The same thing with righties, something hard that way, and it's been in zone.
So with all these guys, this stuff has been brewing. When you see this come up in the biggest moment, like what Will Klein did yesterday, he's been working on that forever. And the Dodgers are so good, if you caught on to that, They don't make wholesale changes. They make small tweaks, and the big deal to that is wholesale changes a lot of times you can't take into games. They're just too difficult. It takes like a year or two to get the feel down. But just changing a grip, like you saw, you just rotate your grip on the ball from a 12-6 to more like a slider pitch, and basically you just throw your sweeper like a sweeper, just like you do any other breaking ball, and the next thing you know, you have a different feel to it. By the way, Braden Fisher, the guy I mentioned there, he actually pitched last night for Toronto. That's something, just a minor tweak, a change of a grip like that is something that a guy can take into games, especially if they see success with it. And we saw success definitely last night with Will Klein on that slider that you saw. Hey, that's the pitch that he was just talking about, where he changed the grip on it to spike it a little bit better. And lo and behold, he was able to be confident enough with it to take it into the biggest moment, which is the World Series last night. So one thing that, none of that works if he doesn't throw a great fastball. I've always thought metrically Will Klein has had borderline, well, not my opinion. Just look at the metrics of his fastball. It's always been somewhat elite. And so I didn't think he trusted enough. So I simply asked him the question, do you trust your fastball enough? Here's what he had to say. Let me ask you a tough question here. If I were to say, hey, I love Will Klein's fastball. I mean, it's got great metrics to it, especially at the top of the zone. I don't think he trusted enough of the big moments. So that'd be fair.
It would have been, yeah. I think there were times, like, especially when you go up there, like, and you're like the new guy, like, you're
trying to trick everybody with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're like, all right, like, they can hit fastballs, and it's like, well, you just got to trust it. And then we've talked through it too, like, just the way it comes out, like, throw it a little, like, more behind my head, just like kind of comes here, and so they don't like pick it up until a little later, and so that's like helps, like, all right, like, they have a harder time picking up from my slot and stuff like that, and then just trusting myself to, like, throw it by guys. Like, just a lot of it's confidence, and some of that can take a hit up there, but just learning to really, like, believe in yourself and go at those guys. And we're getting back there these last couple weeks. So
trust your fastball. Throw your fastball. Your fastball is good enough to get outs. We saw that last night to end an inning. And then off of that fastball, especially to righties, you get up underneath the hands of left-handers with that new gripped slider that he throw. He used to throw a gyro, he said. Now he spikes it a little bit more. It gets a little bit more depth, and that depth gets underneath left-handers' hands. And he took that from all the adjustments he made that you just heard all the way to the World Series. That's how great, ladies and gentlemen, okay? Yes, Shohei Ohtani is the greatest player in the world. Yes, Freddie Freeman's a Hall of Famer. Yes, the Dodgers have the highest payroll in baseball. Nobody's hiding behind that, and nobody gives a shit, because that's what the Dodgers should be doing. Kudos to the front office. It's one thing to spend money like the Mets do. It's one thing to throw money at players like San Francisco did with Xander Bogaerts. It's another thing to throw money and prospects like the Padres have done with Manny Machado and everybody. Mason Miller, they gave up their number one prospect, right? So just throwing money at a roster doesn't guarantee crap, right? Why the Dodgers are the reason why they have a great chance to go back-to-back for the first time since 99-2000 when the Yankees did it. I wanted to play those clips because that's why. You just saw it so many times. I mean, even I know Freddie Freeman hit the walk-off, but you have to have the Will Kleins, the guys on the margins. Your guys on the margins have to outperform the other team's guys on the margins, because like we've seen, Bo Bichette, Vlad Jr., Alejandro Kirk, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, even Will Smith at times, Teo Hernandez, the dudes are dudes, right? They're going to a lot of times cancel each other out. So it comes down to, the guys on the margins, which guys on the margins outproduce the others. You look at what I would say Clayton Kershaw, although he's a Hall of Famer, he's on the margins right now. He comes through with the bases loaded. Emmett Sheehan comes through well with 2 2/3 innings. Robo looks great. Jack Dreyer did a good job last night. Will Klein, in a moment of desperation, comes out and takes all the adjustments that he has made with the Dodgers, takes them onto the field, and knocks it out. So, hey, you can gripe and moan all you want about all the money the Dodgers spend, and you're not wrong. Okay, you're wrong to gripe about it, but you're not wrong about the amount of money they spend. But just know this. it's equal parts the fact that they're mentally tough. This organization does not allow these guys to get complacent. They bring in guys like Alex Call, like Blake Snell, like Will Klein, guys that are hungry, that want to continue to win. They only sign guys to long-term contracts that they know will continue to be motivated to win, like Freddie Freeman, like Mookie Betts. And then they fill in their margins with guys like Will Klein that are super talented, that they can make one small tweak here or there, and the next thing you know, you can knock down 4+ innings in the World Series and win a game like you did last night. So I'm just not going to listen to people that think the Dodgers only win because they spend money. Yes, you can win one maybe every now and then through talent, but they're so consistently better than everybody else because of the Will Kleins, because of the Alex Calls, because of the Miguel Rojas's, because of the Tommy Edmonds, because, anybody could have had those guys, right? And those are the guys that came through last night. So the winning on the margins, the attention to detail. I mean, whenever the Dodgers put the roster together, I think, I went on about how it would be totally against the Dodgers' nature to put Will Klein even on the roster over a Tanner Scott. So how about even putting him on the roster to begin with? So the attention to detail to all of that, the attention to detail to put Edgardo Henriquez back on the roster, based on matchups, based on a whole bunch of things that we don't know. That's why the Dodgers are such a great organization. That's why they really don't have a weakness. It's just very impressive, and it's super, super, super exciting. So that's going to bring us into today's matchup. And what I wanted to do about today's matchup is I wanted to talk about who the pitcher is going to be for today. And let me actually get into that, and let me slide that on over. And let's talk a little bit about Shane Bieber. Here you can see right here, 4-seam slider, knuckle curve, change, and cutter. And so he's going to be not a heavy 4-seam guy. He's going to be somewhat unpredictable, not an extremely high velo guy. He's going to be a guy that is going to rely on his knuckle curve to get a lot of hard ground balls. And he does a good job of throwing that knuckle curve in zone about 56% of the time, gets about a 22% whiff rate on that. Average exit velo, though, you see right here, is 96. So the cat and mouse game is here. Can you see the knuckle curve up in the zone? If you swing at the knuckle curves that are down the zone, I'm going to say this one more time. If the knuckle curve starts about right here, that's the one you swing at. If it starts about belt high, that's the one you lay off. Because if you swing at the knuckle curves that start about belt high, they're going to drop to the bottom of the zone, and you're going to get one of these, a -1 degree hard ground ball, hopefully hard, maybe not even a hard ground ball, because it's not a put-away pitch. It is a soft contact. It's a ground ball pitch. So to me, the cat and mouse is, I think Shane Bieber is going to showcase the fastball outside the zone to the perimeter of the zone so he can get to his knuckle curve to get to this batting average of 147, slug just 176, launch angle of -1. Can he get the Dodgers to hit a million, just one ground ball after the other tonight with his knuckle curve? Because you can see here his 4-seam, it's a show pitch. It's the tunnel point. So he likes to set that tunnel point to the top of the zone and let that knuckle curve work off of that. Again, just about a 92er. It's in zone about league average. Whiff rate's not great. Average exit velo's not great for him. Launch angle's not great for him. Put away's not great for him. Slug's not great for him. And so the 4-seam in and of itself is not a great pitch. It's a setup pitch for the knuckle curve. So I think this is a night to where if the Dodgers, the cat and mouse game, simply put, is the knuckle curve. If they can see the knuckle curve up and then hit his fastball, I think they'll have a good plan against Shane Bieber. So it's going to take the Dodgers just being off of their game tonight for Shane Bieber to have success. But hey, again, he's another Max Scherzer type to where if I were to tell you that Shane Bieber was going to go out there and pitch ahead of what he's done because of the big environment, because he's a champion at heart, because he thinks like a champion, just because he's mentally tough like that, I wouldn't argue with anybody that would say Shane Bieber would go out and have a great performance just because he's Shane Bieber and he thinks that he's a great pitcher, because he always has been. I think that's the factor that's in his favor But I do think the Dodgers are disciplined enough to either see the knuckle curve up, or if they're going to see the knuckle curve down, lay off of it. And then, don't let him bite you into swinging at a bunch of fastballs on the perimeter, or even worse, a little bit off the perimeter. Yes, OTC, we need Coach Holt's opinion. He was not available today. What a great crowd we have logged in. I'm always very, very flattered by the amount of support that we get on this channel. It is absolutely awesome. So thank you so much for all of your wonderful, wonderful, wonderful support. So yes, we do need Coach Holt's opinion. We will eventually get that. Hey, Mr. Classic, if you wore a Blue Jays jersey around LA, I would have tons of respect instead of looking down. Yep. Mooksy Philks, sheesh, opposite field home run too. Yeah. How about the opposite field for Shohei Ohtani? I have been preaching that and preaching that and preaching that. I think I tore down the internet with a post saying I think Shohei Ohtani needs to concentrate hitting the ball to left center. Everybody's like telling me like, hey, you're trying to tell the greatest hitter in the world how to hit whatever. Okay. It works. He has a lot of power to left center, and that's because he grew up doing that. So that was great to see Shohei Ohtani go opposite field. And my comment yesterday was, I think Shohei Ohtani could take some tips from Freddie Freeman, right? And how about it? It absolutely turned up last night. Turns out that, hey, no matter what level you're on, baseball is baseball. When you're pulling off the ball, try to hit the ball the other way, even if you're Shohei Ohtani. Baseball is baseball, right? What an amazing game last night. Mixie Phillips, thank you so much for joining. Jeff Roll, Will Klein was amazing. What a likable, unlikely hero. And that's, hey, how many times, Jeff, in big competitions, is it an unlikely hero that actually comes through to win games on the margins because your dudes cancel out your dudes, and your margin guys are typically speaking going to be the difference in whenever it's tight like this. And that's exactly what happened. So great observation. And yes, you are correct. Matter of fact, if you go to that interview with Will Klein, I mentioned that he has a very outgoing personality, and that outgoing personality would be good for big moments because he's able to take things in stride. Mr. Classic, I give the Blue Jays a ton of credit. Those guys haven't experienced a World Series. They are just absolutely relentless. They are. Toronto is a great team. I mean, they are a great team. Dave, I agree, has outmanaged Schneider by leaving his guys in. Dave has gone people over analytics, and that's not something he always does, but you tend to do that. Sometimes whenever you have less depth is whenever you do your best job as a manager, because you're like, okay, well, I can't play the analytics game because I don't have enough depth to bring in like 17 guys that I trust. And so I'm just going to trust the handful of guys that I have. And then also I'm going to trust if a guy has a hot hand. So, the Dodgers only had, 2 pitchers left. So Will Klein has a hot hand. Just leave him in there, right? So you have to trust your people, and you have to trust your hot hands whenever you're thin on trustable pieces, especially out of the pen. And to Dave's credit, he has been intelligent enough to do that. Start Roar Bet and see how the game plays out. That's what I'm saying, Jeff. Let's see. Hey, let's see if Shohei Ohtani can shut him down for 5 or 6 innings. Let's see if we can steal a game with Roar Bet playing and see how that goes. Mixie Phillips, Bill has been starting. They showed Dave saying something to Ben after the game. That's what I would do. 18 innings, it's 2 games, right? I mean, it's too much to ask Will Smith. Sometimes, even in the World Series, you got to give a little bit up in the battle and to put yourself in position to actually win the war. Mr. Classic, Blue Jays, in terms of skill and depth, are less than the Phillies or Brewers, but their resilience and grit is way better. I think they have less maybe top end. Like they don't have the Schwarber. Well, they do, but I think the Phillies probably have better pitching. I think they're different, but I do think Toronto maybe is more complete, and that's why you see the resilience, because 1 through 9, I mean, they can hurt you 1 through 9, and they have a plan. I will say this. I think what you're seeing, Mr. Classic, is that Toronto has a defined identity, and they were able to work around and plan their execution around that identity. And when you have an identity, you're able to get the best out of every single player, because they're not up there just trying to get a hit. They're up there just doing what the identity of the team is, and that makes things much less complicated for your guys on the margins, and your guys in the margins are able to execute better, like an Ernie Clement, somebody like that. So I think what you're seeing there is a team that plays to its identity, and that comes out as a very gritty, tough team, because they know what they're trying to accomplish each and every time they're performing. So Jeff Roll, that throw that got Freddie had to be perfect. He was safe, right, to send him. I agree. And it was 2 outs. And just the odds, even if, just the odds of a throw not being perfect, somebody missing a ball is better than the next guy getting a hit. That's why you send them with 2 strikes there. Greg Murphy, Mookie's the only player to win and lose with Boston an 8-inning World Series game. Interesting there. So maybe he'll have some advice for the rest of everybody. Mookie needs to flatten. You call it level, I say flatten. I prefer flatten because I don't want it coming straight across. It's down to back. It's flat in the middle. So we use different terminology. Yes, I agree. Totally needs to flatten his swing. A lot of times the way you do that is you think right field. You let the ball go a little bit deeper, which just by nature has you hitting the ball in the flatter part of your swing. Hey, too many heroes to single one out last night. They all had their part, no doubt. The Maytag, Robo, Sheehan, Kershaw, Edgardo Henriquez, Will Klein, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, and Teo Hernandez with the play, throwing it to getting the ball, getting rid of it. Tommy Edman, even though he had the air, he had to flip to first base. That was another thing you had to survive with the bases loaded. He had the perfect relay throw home. You had Will Smith that had a big hit. You had Will Smith catching 18 innings. Max Muncy was good at third base. He didn't make any mistakes that hurt you. So, yes, everybody that was in, too many heroes to call out any one in particular, and so many different people had a hand in this. Hoffman was great, too. The series is going to be a war of attrition. It already is. 18 innings is pretty atrocious, right? Chuck Huddleston, if Roberts had to use a position player to pitch in that game, I would have never forgiven him. He put us in that situation using 3 different pitchers for a third of an inning. We're going to disagree with that. He was trying to win the game. So Dave Roberts did a perfect job, and you know how much I respect your baseball knowledge. Dave Roberts did a perfect job of towing the line between being aggressive and trying to win the game when you have a chance and or not lose the game when you have a chance, because look at all the opportunities Toronto had, and still keeping some bullets that he knew can go multiple innings, right? So when you get in an 18-inning game, you don't know it's going to go 18 innings. All you know is what's in front of you. So I think Dave Roberts did a masterful job of tackling the present, what's right in front of me, based on what can I also have moving forward too. Toronto was in the same position. If you've ever managed an 18-inning game, which I have, if you've ever been in Oklahoma State played Texas about 10 years ago in an 18-inning game, is about 30 degrees by the time the game ended. Corey Hasselman did it just like Freddie Freeman did with an opposite field home run. I can tell you in that game, neither team had pitching left. Toronto didn't have any pitching left. So I think Dave managed it by seeing who he had. I mean, he had Will Klein go over 4 innings. He had Clayton. He had Emmett Sheehan go over a couple of innings. The bottom line is here's where it went awry. And to me, instead of bringing any criticism to Dave Roberts, I would bring criticism to Tyler Glasnow. He didn't go long enough. Tyler Glasnow needed to make the game longer, and then I think it would have been a lot easier decisions. So whenever you only get, 5 innings out of your starter, you have to cover 13 innings with your bullpen. Okay, so imagine this. The Dodgers covered 13 innings with their bullpen and gave up 1 run. So again, there's no way possible that I'm going to criticize Dave Roberts for his use of the bullpen, of making decisions, covering 13 innings with a bullpen, by the way, that aren't guys that are necessarily in the trust tree, and that bullpen only giving up 1 run. I'm going to go on the opposite. I'm going to say Dave Roberts, not only was there a room not to criticize, not only was there not that, it was one of his best, most masterful jobs he's ever done to cover 13 innings against that Toronto team and the bullpen with the guys he had available. The guys he had available for that bullpen only to give up 1 run. That's good all the way around for me. Okay, Greg Murphy, I was okay with Kershaw being 1 out because he barely got the out. I thought it would be easier for him. I mentioned the reasons why yesterday. I thought Kershaw was a good matchup for Toronto. It was a tough situation. He was having to work around the zone. He got a bunch of pitches fouled off, and I think if he starts his own inning, I think it's a different deal. I have 0 issues with Clayton Kershaw throwing against the Toronto Blue Jays because his ball-to-strike concepts, which is what you need to do against this team, are very good. And so I think he did not make me nervous last night. He will not make me nervous. I said this yesterday, so this is first guessing, not second guessing. I have zero problems. I will not be nervous if Clayton Kershaw comes in. Hey, no way could anybody foresee that game. He definitely outmanaged Snyder. Yeah, Jeff Roll and I are more on the same page. Mixie Phillips, Dave called the perfect game. I agree with that. There's no way you're going to go 18 innings. And again, 13 innings you covered, however many it was, one run that the bullpen gave up. That's a fantastic job. I think we need to give it up to Dave on this one. Dave Roberts, bad call, putting Trinan in there. Okay, I mean, if you want to take that 18-inning game, and I don't mean to be disrespectful or anything, if you want to take that 18-inning game and you want to cherry pick one decision with 15 different guys, and the bullpen gave up one run in 13 innings, I'm going to choose not to do that. I mean, to me, that's a preconceived bias about Dave Roberts that, to me, is not true. I mean, the Dodgers have had one of the best bullpens in the game for many, many, many different years, and they've done it with scrap heap guys. So I'm going to choose not to go down the road of being critical whatsoever about Dave Roberts, not to mention the Dodgers are on the doorstep of taking total control of this series to win the second World Series in a row for the first time in 25, 26 years, and to win 3 of the last 6. This is all good. I'm not going to spend any of my energy today criticizing Dave Roberts whatsoever today. First of all, I don't think he deserves it, and second of all, I don't see the point in it today because I don't think he did anything wrong last night. So there you go. Jeff Roll, Jays did have a good backup plan as far as their pitchers by pulling out Kirk, Bichette, and Barger. Probably cost them. Yeah, I mean, when you're playing 18 innings, when you manage at 18 innings and you're trying to win right then, I can tell you that game Oklahoma State played 18 innings. I think they had like 2 or 3 starters left, position player-wise, and no pitching left by the end of it. That's what you do. You empty your bullets. You try to end the game right then. So I have no problems with managers being aggressive in that situation because you never play. Hey, what happens if we go 18? You just don't, as a manager, you don't go, well, I've got to play this in case we play 8. No, you play it like, I need to win this game right now. Yeah, I can't bitch about the Dodgers front office and Dave not having enough urgency all year, and then bitch also that whenever they do show the ultimate amount of urgency, bitch about that on the other end as well. But hey, everybody is entitled to their own opinion. This is what makes talking baseball such a great thing, especially Dodgers baseball. This is what we do. We talk about all these decisions. Everybody with total respect for everybody's opinion in this. I'm just giving mine. So that's all this is. Toronto has become completely desperate, saying that going forward they won't let Shohei beat them. Yeah, let a guy get on base 9 times. That's a pretty good deal. Again, Dodgers not hitting in the clutch. Yes, they are struggling to hit. Give the pitching a lot of credit. Again, when you get into the playoffs, you see the best pitching from the best teams. I will say this, the Dodgers have been the best team in baseball scoring with 2 outs, and they've been the best team in baseball hitting with runners in scoring position all year. So I personally, I'm just going to say, hey, it's the playoffs. You're facing the best teams, best pitchers. I'm going to give credit to the other team, and I'm going to say, hey, let's continue to get good starting pitching, good enough bullpen work, and good enough timely hitting, and a couple of big swings every game. And let's just win 2 more, right? And let's just get this done, and let's get to be world champions for the second year in a row. Racy Auto Parts agreed Robo should have finished the inning. Mixie Phillips, I would have taken out Sheehan too. He pitched well, but you can tell a hit was coming. Yamamoto, a 5th day of rest with 2 travel days. He should be okay. I agree with that. So imagine, again, that goes back to imagine being Toronto losing an 18-inning game like you did. You're on the road for the next 2, and the pitching that you have to face moving forward, that would not be a fun task to think about. Jeff Roll, Mookie Net, yeah, we're back to flattening his swing out. Let's go to the bottom of this. Dodgers slugged their way into the postseason. Pitching was not good in the starting pitching. The guys that were healthy, as they started getting healthy, the starting pitching starting to be elite, but the bullpen has been a mess for a while, no doubt. Trinan is not the high leverage guy he was last year, no doubt about that. Hey, Tocado, DJ, come on, Casey, used to give credit and criticize. You were balanced. I think I absolutely 1,000% am. And you can go back and look at the receipts. Last night, I'm giving my opinion about I think that he made all the right moves, and I think the fact that the proof is in the pudding. That at 13 innings, 1 run with the guys that had to be used in the bullpen is more than proof of that. So if you don't think I criticize, then do a little bit of homework and go back and look at a couple of the past shows, because you would be 1,000% incorrect that this is the most balanced coverage you will find. So Takata, I'm going to go ahead and vehemently disagree with you on that. Just because I have a positive outlook and I happen to agree with decisions that you don't, doesn't mean that it's not balanced coverage. That just means that you don't agree with it. And again, respectfully, you're totally entitled to your own opinion. I'm so glad you're here. I want you to continue to stay. But that doesn't mean the coverage here isn't balanced. That just means that in this particular situation, you don't happen to agree with what I'm saying. So, hey, you just score every time they give you a free pass. Yeah, they were talking about Shohei Ohtani. And yes, Trinan has struggled a little bit more this year, but hey, the Dodgers have what they have in terms of the bullpen, and they got it done last night. I'm focusing on tonight now. We may need to keep an eye on Ohtani with his cramping issues. I agree, man. This is that's a tough ask, man. I mean, 18 hours later after the performance last night. Indigenous 69, I love this Dodger ownership group, and they need to include Jackie Robinson and Roy Campanella's families in the group. Yes, Dusty Baker and Davey Lopes should be in the Dodger front office also. Yeah, a lot of nostalgia there, no doubt. A W is a W. Who flipping cares? Back-to-back loading. Let's hope that happens. Just 2 more away from that. I agreed with Dave putting in Trinan. As bad as he is, you had to use. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, you threw 18 innings. You have who you have. It's not like you can go invent a new bullpen arm. I mean, so it is what it is. We made it through 13 innings of bullpen work with 1 run. That's pretty good. Hey, Cole, Casey, knowing the Jays plan to walk Ohtani the rest of the series, would you flip him and Mookie in the order, or at least take Paez out of the 9 spot? I would take Paez out all in all. Now that Edman showed he can play center, I think that's something you can do. Put Colin left, Edman in center, and put Kike at second if you want to do that, or put Kike in center, however you want to do that. I would have Andy Paez out of the lineup anyways, and then I have no problems if you want to say, hey, they're going to walk Shohei. But, hey, if they're going to walk Shohei, no better way to get the game started than to get a run, because you walked Shohei there. So I'm 6. I don't really have a strong opinion either way, and I do know with all my experience in managing and coaching that whenever you flip guys in the order, sometimes it changes the vibe. So I couldn't tell you the behind-the-scenes vibes with that. So I don't think I could probably give a very accurate answer. We'll have to agree. Yeah, we'll disagree on that one. Using a position player. Well, they didn't use a position player. They got through 18 innings without using a position player because Dave managed it, did a great job switching back and forth between the short-term aggressiveness at that moment and getting through 18 innings. OTC Glasnow is never, and of course, I mean, if you get into like a 30-inning game, everybody's going to be using a position player. OTC Glasnow is never and never will pitch deep into a game. That's why he's not a great pitcher. That's the opinion of OTC. Glasnow needed to have a more successful outing. That's what got everything thrown off kilter, was that your starter, you had an 18-inning game and your starter only went 5 innings. Of course, you're going to have some issues with your bullpen. I mean, how do you cover 13 innings with your bullpen when it's not a planned bullpen game, right? The minute Dave pulled out Glasnow, some people complained, but I agree with Dave. No matter the bullpen being bad, Glasnow was walking guys left and right, and he was hanging curveballs, and he was giving up home runs. Chuck, did you see when they showed all the empty chairs in the Dodgers bullpen? Jeff Roll, yeah. Mr. Classic, the one play from Teo to Edman to Will Smith for the out was super critical, no doubt about that. And we are down to the bottom. This has been an absolutely awesome chat today. We've had definitely some, you used to talk about the Dodgers having a dynamic offense. Yesterday there was no dynamic. Dodgers can't manufacture a 3-run, and that lies on the feet of the manager. Okay, I mean, yeah, I do complain about a dynamic offense, but this is also the World Series, and you're playing the best team. You're playing the best teams in baseball. I still have not gone away from wanting a dynamic offense, but if you go to a lot of the ways. First of all, the Dodgers haven't been playing great offense, period. But if you go back to some of the earlier games in the playoffs, the Dodgers have manufactured some run. They have had some winning baseball plays, and they have added slug to that. And to me, a matter of fact, a couple of shows ago, we talked about how the Dodgers are winning because they have scored in multiple different ways. Now, did they last night? No, but that doesn't mean they haven't in the past. So, Takata, we're actually agreeing on that. I 1,000% that's why the Dodgers went and got Tommy Edman. That's why Kike Hernandez is a big deal. That Shohei Ohtani hits for a good batting average. Usually Freddie Freeman should. The problem that you're having right now, Takata, is it's not a philosophical issue. It's the fact that until last night, Freddie Freeman wasn't hitting. Until last night, Mookie Betts wasn't hitting. Until really even last night, Shohei Ohtani wasn't hitting all that well. Max Muncy's not hitting all that well, right? Tommy Edman hasn't been hitting all that well. So your guys that typically gather base hits haven't been hitting well. So it's not, to me, that the Dodgers haven't tried to be a dynamic offense. It's just that the guys that create that dynamic environment for your offense haven't been hitting. And so that happens in baseball. And what I'm trying to say is we're still winning games in the World Series. And at this point, being two wins away from a world championship, I don't give a rat's ass how we get it done. I just want to win 2 more games, win a world championship, figure out what all of the warts were in the offseason, and then go get a Kyle Tucker or somebody that might make it a little bit more sure-proof for next year. But my point's not that I don't want the offense to be dynamic. My point is, okay, if it's not, then what do we do? Let's at least try to figure out a way to win those games and win 2 more and win a world championship. And if we win a world championship, I don't care how they get there. I just want it to get done. So that's kind of where I'm at. It's not that I don't want them to have a dynamic offense. It's just I'm just so focused on winning games. I don't care how it happens. At this point, let's just get it done. Because there's no big picture left. This is all no process. This is all results, and the results are the Dodgers are up 2-1. They have a great chance to win the World Series. Hey, great. 300 GJW, thank you so much for your super chat. Glasnow was not helped by Edman, missed double. Yeah, the error by Edman did not help, no doubt about that. But then again, he walked the leadoff guy, and he hung a curveball to Alejandro Kirk. So there's blame to go around. Anytime you give up a 4 spot like that in a big inning, and hey, we're having some disagreements today. That's awesome. Chuck, I love you. You know that this is just one, like I disagree with Dave Roberts and a lot of things that he does all the time, right? I mean, you can just go back to 1 or 2 shows ago as far as that goes. So awesome, man. You awesome baseball brains. I love the disagreements. I love having different sides of the story. So thank you so much for your wonderful comments. You too, Tokata. Thank you so much for your absolutely awesome comments as well. I love the disagreements. I love the fact that we have an environment and a community here that feels that feels that they can give their opposing opinions in a respectful way, and we can have a very respectful, mature, and awesome conversation around it. I can give my opinion. You can give yours, and if we have to, like Chuck said, we can agree to disagree, and we can go on to talk about the next topic, which is how much we love Dodgers baseball, and get on with it. Hey, if it's me, I sign Kyle Tucker and Bichette at second base, make Edman the Swiss Army knife again. That was a hell of a plan right there, Chuck. Hey, Tokata DJ, agree, Casey. You are an absolute rock star, Tokata. And anytime that you have a disagreement with me, and if you think that I'm not being genuine or genuine to who I am in terms of I don't give a shit who you are. If I have an opinion, I'm going to give it. Let me know again, and I'll explain myself, and we'll go after it again. Same with you, Chuck. Thank you so much for the wonderful comments today. Al Minerva, thank you so much for joining. Edman made it, but I will say this about Edman, Racy Auto Parts. This is why the chat here is elite. Racy Auto, great players make up for it. That's why we love Teo. And boy, did Tommy Edman ever make up for that, his error last night with the great relay play, the flip to first base with 2 outs and the bases loaded. And that was absolutely huge. And so he absolutely made up for that. Hey, Casey, that's my plan. Chuck stole it. Yeah, I know Austin has a lot of talk about the offseason that we're going to get into. Pages for defense in the 7th, I wouldn't have a problem with that. You know what's the interesting part of that is I like Pages in right field. I would take out Teo, put Pages in right field, and then whoever in center field. I would prefer Tommy Edman, but then who do you put at second base? Yeah, I guess it'd be Rojas at second base. I think that's your best defense. So let's get a lead and see. So I think the questions tonight are, can you lay off the knuckle curve? Can you see the knuckle curve of Bieber up in the zone? What do you do with Will Smith? As Takata said, can you figure out how to play a little bit better offense other than hitting home runs? Okay, can you do that? And can you generate and gather a lead without Will Smith to where you can get into a better defensive lineup down the stretch? So, hey, TNVG, will Dave give Smith a day off today or tomorrow? I don't think necessarily a day off, but I think he could be a pinch hitter. I think he'd be a guy that could be on call and ready to go as a pinch hitter. So a day off, I think, is probably a little bit too much to say. But I would say, yes, I think he could give Ben Workbet the start and see how things go from there. And having a 2-1 lead, you don't want to play any big picture. But, man, I mean, catching 18 innings and trying to come back the next day, you could definitely lose Will Smith. And even if Will Smith is able to continue the series and play, that doesn't mean that he's going to be effective if you've worn him down too much. So I think that's going to be, so Will Smith, I think the cat and mouse game is the knuckle curve of Shane Bieber. Does Will Smith to play today? How does Shohei Ohtani after cramping, after getting on base? Again, hey, getting on base 9 times, you're on your feet a lot, right? That's way more than you're used to being on your feet. How does Shohei Ohtani come back the next day after having cramps, after getting on base 9 times last night and being on his feet as much as he did there? How does Toronto bounce back off the devastation? How does Toronto bounce back having used all their bullpen arms last night? There's just so many things to look forward to tonight. And I'll say this again, I've said this a couple different times. It seems like with this team, when things are actually set up perfectly, that's when I worry the most. I've also said this, it seems like when things are just all going to hell in a handbasket, that's when this team's at its best. And I think that goes back to being mentally tough and very strong. So Will took that foul ball off his wrist as well. Start Rortvet and bring in Will mid-game if needed. That's where I'm at right there. So 2 more games to a world championship. It is an absolute awesome deal. What an awesome game last night. Obviously, I couldn't bring you a post game because that would have been almost 3 o'clock my time, and I had to go to work so the next morning, and I worked all night last night. So, again, the wonderful support from all you wonderful Dodgers dogs out there. Thank you so much. It's so humbling. It's so flattering. So I just can't thank you enough. And, wow, it's going to be another awesome game tonight. Hopefully this thing doesn't have to go back to Toronto. Let's win these next 2. That starts with winning tonight, Shohei Ohtani versus Shane Bieber. So, again, you Dodgers dogs are the best. And, as always, it's a great